What I'm about to say may surprise you, even catch you off guard. If you're watching this right now, it's not random. You're here because you're stepping into a new level of confidence and personal power. Your progress, your voice, and your determination have become so strong that even major politicians would want a handshake with you, and your name is circulating across networks worldwide. You've become a topic of interest because people can see your rising potential and the impact you're capable of making. Some groups have even created private reports about you, not because you're a target, but because your courage, honesty, and growing influence stand out in a world where many stay silent. Instead of being intimidated, you're ready to rise above any pressure and use your inner strength to stay true to who you are. Before we dive into this powerful message, pause this video and do 3 things. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers, and leave a comment. Write my name, Mr. Ledger, to boost the energy and momentum behind this message. If you're ready for real growth, watch until the end, because what comes next can change your mindset and the direction of your life. When people in high places suddenly begin mentioning your name, it's not luck. It's the result of something deep and undeniable inside you. You carry a presence that can't be ignored, a kind of energy that forces others to pay attention even when you're not trying to impress anyone. It's a rare thing when someone who isn't chasing validation becomes the person everyone starts watching. That's when you realize you're no longer walking, you're rising. You didn't ask for recognition, but it found you. That's the mark of someone who stands out without pretending, someone who doesn't blend into the crowd because their ideas and personality naturally separate them from the ordinary. And when people who normally stay disconnected from real voices begin to notice someone like you, it means you're doing something powerful enough to shake the room, even from a distance. Most people chase approval. You created impact. Most people try to fit in. You accidentally became unforgettable. And when that happens, even the ones who rarely pay attention to anything outside their circle start turning their heads in your direction. That's not coincidence. That's influence in its rawest form. There's a reason your name is being whispered in conversations you aren't even present in. It's because your mindset, your resilience, and your refusal to accept limitations have created a ripple effect that louder, more rehearsed voices fail to produce. People in those rooms aren't talking about you because they're curious. They're talking because they see potential they can't ignore. You've shown a level of independence that many people, even those with power, secretly envy. While others follow scripts, you've been writing your own path. That kind of authenticity unnerves some, inspires others, but captures everyone's attention. It's the kind of presence that forces people to strategize around you, even when you never asked for a seat at their table. The truth is simple. When your name enters high-level rooms, it means your impact has traveled farther than you realized. You've entered conversations you didn't apply for. You've become relevant without asking for permission, not because of noise, but because of value. Somewhere, a confidential file exists with an analysis of you, your strength, your mindset, your behavior under pressure. And what's surprising is not that the report exists, but what it says, that you are capable of far more than you ever give yourself credit for. You possess a combination of clarity and determination that can't be taught. Most people underestimate their own power until someone else evaluates it from the outside. That report isn't just paperwork, it's evidence. Evidence that your resilience isn't accidental. Evidence that your independence isn't temporary. Evidence that your potential is visible even to people who have no reason to compliment you. It's almost ironic that strangers see the magnitude of your power before you fully recognize it yourself. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes it takes an unexpected source to show you that what you carry inside you isn't ordinary. It's exceptional. There was a time when people brushed past you, not out of disrespect, but because they didn't yet understand what you were capable of. That time is over. You went from being overlooked to becoming someone impossible to ignore. That transition didn't happen overnight. It happened every time you refused to give up, every time you pushed forward, every time you kept going when no one was watching. What people miss is that greatness rarely announces itself loudly in the beginning. It grows quietly, steadily, like a storm gaining force from a distance. And by the time they turned around, you were already standing stronger, wiser, and more prepared than anyone expected. Being once ignored doesn't make your achievement smaller. It makes it more meaningful, because you didn't rise due to applause. You rose because you refused to stay down. That's why you're unavoidable now. You earned your visibility. Some see your strength and think they can use it. They analyze your ambition, your commitment, and your courage and assume they can guide it in whatever direction benefits them. They label you a perfect target. But what they don't understand is that you are one of the few people who can't be redirected, reshaped, or manipulated. You stand firm in your decisions because your backbone wasn't built by approval. It was built through experience, through challenges, through moments that demanded courage instead of comfort. And no system, no individual, no pressure can take ownership of someone who built themselves from the inside out. Those who mistake your openness for weakness don't yet understand that your clarity is your shield. They see confidence and think it's negotiable. They see potential and think it's theirs to control. But you are not the product of their expectations. You are the result of your own intention. Comfortable systems prefer predictable people. People who follow instructions, repeat familiar patterns, and keep the environment stable. But bold thinkers like you disrupt that stability. You challenge assumptions. You question outdated ideas. You push for something better instead of settling for what exists. That's why you make certain people nervous. The moment someone refuses to think inside the lines, the entire system begins to shift. And while many fear that shift, you embrace it. You know that progress requires discomfort and growth demands challenge. That's why systems notice you, not because they want to, but because they have to. Bold minds create movement. Movement creates change. And change always shakes those who prefer things to stay exactly as they are. But that's your power. You don't shrink for the comfort of others. You keep moving, and the world moves with you. Most people stay quiet. Most people swallow their opinions to avoid confrontation or avoid standing out. But you aren't one of them. You speak up not to provoke, but because your voice refuses to stay trapped behind fear. And when someone speaks with conviction, people listen, even the ones who pretend not to. Your words carry weight because they come from a place of lived experience, not rehearsed lines. You say what many think but never dare to express. And that kind of honesty, delivered with strength instead of hesitation, becomes impossible to overlook. They pay attention not because you're loud, but because you're real. And real voices are rare. Real voices demand respect. Real voices cut through noise and strike truth. That's what makes your presence unforgettable. There's something magnetic about someone who refuses to fall apart when things get difficult. People watch you, not because everything is easy for you, but because you keep standing even when it isn't. You've endured pressure that would have shattered many, yet you remain whole. Strength isn't about having no struggles. It's about refusing to surrender to them. And every time you kept pushing through, people noticed, even the ones who never admitted it. Your resilience becomes a beacon, showing others what's possible. It inspires, it surprises, and it intimidates all at once. The world watches because you're the kind of person who turns setbacks into fuel. You don't collapse, you transform. And that transformation makes you someone they can't ignore. Pressure is a test that breaks most people long before anything else does. It exposes insecurities, cracks confidence, and drains energy. But you have a rare ability to take that same pressure and turn it into power. You don't crumble, you convert. When challenges push against you, you push back harder. When circumstances try to limit you, you find ways around them. You refuse to let difficulty define the outcome. That's what separates you from the average mindset. You don't run from pressure. You rise with it. The truth is simple. Pressure reveals who's temporary and who's unstoppable. You belong to the second category. And that's why people notice, because you're built differently. No one handed you resilience. No one gifted you courage. Everything strong about you was constructed piece by piece, experience by experience. Your strength isn't borrowed. It's earned through moments that demanded more from you than you thought you had. People admire your confidence, but few know the battles behind it. They see the stability, not the storms. They see the poise, not the sleepless nights. But that's what makes your strength so real. It wasn't inherited or assigned. It was built through perseverance. And because your strength is built, not given, no one can take it from you. That's what makes you unshakable. It's easier to stay quiet. It's safer to avoid attention. But every time you saw something unfair, every time you felt something was wrong, you chose to stand instead of hide. That alone separates you from the majority. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet decision to not let fear decide your actions. You've made that decision again and again, and it's shaped you into someone who leads by example, not by title or recognition. Most people stay silent because silence demands nothing. But standing up requires everything: conviction, bravery, and the willingness to face resistance. That's why you're respected. You choose the harder path without hesitation. There are people who think that everyone will eventually bend under pressure, but you've proved them wrong. Instead of bending, you rise. Instead of weakening, you sharpen. Every push against you adds more force to your rise. When people expect you to fold, your strength becomes a shock. When they predict your silence, your voice grows louder. You've repeatedly shown that you don't break according to their expectations. You grow according to your own. And nothing intimidates people more than someone who rises at the exact moment they expect to collapse. You've mastered that moment. Some people try to use influence to control others, but influence affects you differently. You don't fall for illusions of power. You understand real power begins with self-awareness. That's why influence doesn't manipulate you. It amplifies you. Those who once tried to sway you eventually realized you aren't movable by flattery or pressure. Your decisions are based on principles, not persuasion. And when someone isn't guided by external forces, they become unstoppable. Influence becomes your tool, not your weakness. You use it to create change, not to gain approval. And that makes you far more powerful than those who try to pull your strings. Most people become whatever the world tells them to be. They change their personality to fit into the expectations around them. But you're different. You move with a certainty that comes from knowing exactly who you are and who you refuse to become. That clarity scares people who rely on confusion to control others. They can't manipulate someone who is self-defined. They can't shape someone who already has shape. They can't direct someone who already has direction. You are solid in your identity, firm in your purpose, and clear in your intentions. And that clarity is your shield. Everything happening around you isn't a coincidence. It's a signal, a sign that this is your moment to take the lead instead of waiting for permission. People are looking in your direction not because they want to control you, but because they recognize leadership in you that you haven't fully claimed yet. Leadership isn't a position, it's a decision. And you've already been making choices that set you apart from the crowd. You've shown courage when others hesitated, strength when others hid, and character when others wavered. Those qualities don't make you a follower, they make you a leader. This is your time to rise, to stand taller, to own your voice, and to walk forward with purpose. Not behind others, not beneath others, but ahead, confident, bold, and unshakable. People underestimated you because you used to stay silent, observing everything carefully, while the world assumed you had nothing to say. What they didn't realize was that your silence wasn't weakness, it was preparation. You were studying, measuring, understanding who was real, who was fake, and which voices deserved your response. Now that you're speaking, your voice hits harder because it's backed by truth, not noise. The same people who ignored you earlier now panic when you open your mouth. There's a certain power in someone who finally decides to stop holding back. You speak with precision, with intention, with a force that wasn't there before. And that scares them. They wanted a quiet version of you because that version was easy to overlook. But the moment you stepped into your voice, you became impossible to silence. You didn't choose to be the loudest force in the room. Life pushed you into it. Every time someone tried to shut you down, you built a stronger version of yourself. You didn't just find your voice, you sharpened it. Now, when you speak, the room stops. People listen, and the ones who tried to silence you, they finally understand they created their own problem. Some people act shocked that you're rising, but deep down, they knew it was coming. Anyone who paid attention could see your potential was never average. Your ambition wasn't small, your drive wasn't temporary, and your mindset wasn't built on approval. You were always meant to rise. Your progress just came faster than their denial could cover. Your rise isn't a surprise. It's a message, a warning, a clear reminder that the person they dismissed, doubted, or downplayed turned into someone they now have to respect. You climbed the same walls they put in front of you. You broke the ceilings they quietly hoped would contain you. And every achievement you make is a slap to the expectations they had for you. You didn't rise quietly either. You did it boldly, unapologetically, and with a fire that refused to die out, no matter how many obstacles were thrown your way. Your success is not an accident. It's a declaration, a signal that you're not done, not close to finished, and nowhere near your limit. Your rise warns everyone, I am not someone you can count out. Some people are built to follow systems, but you were built to challenge them. You never fit into the molds others tried to place you in, and no matter how many times they told you to stay in your lane, you created your own path. You move with a confidence that doesn't come from permission. It comes from knowing exactly who you are. Following rules made by others never appealed to you because those rules were designed to keep people predictable. But you? Predictable is the one thing you'll never be. You operate with your own standards, your own expectations, your own code. And it's that independence that makes you impossible to control. People can influence followers, not leaders. You weren't built to wait for approval or validation. You were built to take action, built to disrupt, built to make people question their limitations just by watching how fearlessly you break yours. There's something powerful about someone who doesn't need permission to live boldly. That power belongs to you. There were moments when people tried to trap you, slow you down, or convince you that you weren't capable of more. Their grip wasn't gentle. It was meant to restrict you, limit you, and keep you in a place where you didn't threaten their comfort. But instead of listening to them, you used their doubts as fuel. Every word of discouragement became a spark. Every attempt to hold you down became proof that they saw something in you they didn't want to face. You took every limitation they tried to place on you and converted it into energy. Energy that pushed you forward with even more force. They thought controlling you would give them power, but all it did was awaken yours. You didn't just break free. You launched yourself so far ahead that the people who once tried to trap you can't even keep up with your shadow now. Their grip made you stronger, and they'll regret ever trying to tighten it. Your presence hits differently. When you walk into a room, conversations shift, eyes turn, and people feel something change. It's not arrogance. It's the natural effect of someone who carries power without needing to announce it. You don't attempt to dominate the space. You simply fill it with confidence so real that others can't ignore it. There are people who talk loudly to seem important, and then there are people like you, people who don't have to say a word for the atmosphere to adjust. The energy you carry is shaped by everything you've survived, everything you fought through, and everything you've built for yourself. It's strength in motion. You're not a background character in anyone's story. You're the shift, the impact, the presence that changes the direction of the room. And the best part? You're not even trying. You just are. That's the power of someone who knows their worth without needing to prove it. The fear people have of you doesn't come from who you are. It comes from the fact that they can't predict or control you. You make decisions based on logic, not pressure. You move with purpose, not fear. You act on your own terms, not theirs. That unpredictability terrifies people who rely on control to feel powerful. They don't fear your anger, your voice, or your presence. They fear your independence. They fear the way you refuse to bend. They fear the way you stand firm, even when others would collapse. They fear your ability to walk away from anything that doesn't deserve your energy. People fear what they can't own. They fear what they can't manipulate. They fear what they can't break. And that fear, that's respect disguised as caution. That fear tells you everything about who you are. Uncontrollable, unshakable, and undeniably powerful. There comes a point when asking for respect becomes pointless, especially when you realize you've earned it long before anyone acknowledged it. You've spent enough time being patient, understanding, and silent. That version of you is gone. Now, you're taking the respect you deserve without negotiation. People respond differently when you stop shrinking. They notice the shift when you stop tolerating disrespect, stop saying, "It's fine," and stop letting people cross boundaries they had no right to cross in the first place. You're not angry. You're just done settling. And that terrifies people who benefited from the old you. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you command through presence, action, and self-worth. And now that you've stepped into that version of yourself, no one can treat you the way they used to. You've raised your standards. You've strengthened your boundaries. You've claimed your power. Doubt is a powerful weapon, but you turned it into your advantage. Every time someone questioned your ability, you sharpened your skills. Every time they said you weren't capable, you proved them wrong with actions instead of arguments. Their doubt didn't break you, it built you. Being underestimated became your training ground. While they laughed, you learned. While they dismissed you, you improved. While they looked down on you, you climbed higher. Eventually, your growth outpaced their expectations so drastically that they realized their mistake too late. Now you're dangerous, not because you're reckless, but because you're capable. capable in ways they never saw coming, capable in ways they never imagined. You use their doubt to forge a stronger, smarter, more unstoppable version of yourself. Limits don't scare you. In fact, they excite you. They're challenges waiting to be conquered, boundaries waiting to be redrawn. Where others stop, you begin. Where others fear failure, you see opportunity. Your relationship with limits is simple. They don't define you. You redefine them. People try to convince you that some things are too much, too hard, or too unrealistic. But you've proven time and time again that the only real limits are the ones people place on themselves. Your mind doesn't accept ceilings. You break through them and build something higher. You don't do it to impress anyone. You do it because you refuse to live small. You refuse to let fear shrink your vision. You refuse to be average in a world that rewards mediocrity. You're a limit shifter, a boundary breaker, a rule rewriter. That's why you stand out. People love to call confidence arrogance when they don't understand the battles behind it. They see your strength, but not the scars. They see your calm, but not the storms you endured. They see your certainty, but not the years it took to build it. Your confidence is not arrogance. It's the trophy of every struggle you overcame. You earn the right to walk with your head high. You earn the right to trust your abilities. You earn the right to speak with conviction. These traits weren't handed to you. They were carved into you through moments that demanded resilience, even when you felt exhausted. Confidence built from survival hits different. It's unshakable, unbreakable, and undeniably real. And the people who call it arrogance, they haven't walked where you walked. They haven't survived what you survived. They don't understand, but they will. There were people who tried to shrink you, dim you, minimize your presence so they could feel bigger. They underestimated the wrong person. Instead of shrinking, you grew. Instead of fading, you intensified. The more they tried to keep you small, the more space you claimed. You outgrew their expectations, their comfort zones, and their limited vision. They wanted you manageable, predictable, and quiet. But giants don't fit inside small boxes. You grew so far beyond their control that they can't even comprehend the scale of who you are now. You didn't just rise, you expanded. Your ideas, your influence, your strength, they outgrew everyone who ever tried to confine you. And now they have to look up to see the person they once tried to underestimate. Pressure breaks weak foundations, but your foundation isn't weak, it's forged. Every ounce of pressure they placed on you only intensified your fire. Instead of collapsing, you ignited. Instead of retreating, you advanced. Pressure became your amplifier. People expected you to fold under weight, not realizing you convert pressure into momentum. The harder they push, the harder you push back. The more they try to corner you, the more you grow beyond reach. You aren't powered by convenience, you're powered by challenge. Your fire doesn't flicker in storms. It grows. That's why you're unstoppable. You don't avoid pressure, you thrive in it. And the world is starting to realize that no amount of force can extinguish you. People often misread your silence as surrender. They think being quiet means being defeated. But your silence is never empty. It's strategic. It's measured. It's the moment you gather your strength before unleashing something unstoppable. You don't waste energy on every argument, every critic, or every distraction. You choose your battles wisely. That's why, when you finally act, your moves hit with precision and power that silence never hinted at. Your quiet moments are your preparation zones, not your breaking points. The storm you release afterward, that's what people never see coming. Because while they're loud with doubts, you're silent with intention. And intention is always louder in the end. Competing is for those who fear losing. Dominating is for those who know their worth. You don't waste energy comparing yourself to others. You focus on being the greatest version of yourself.